Fort Wright, I think, is the ideal place to call home, both for a family and a business, given our, I think, attractive geographic location in northern Kentucky, but also the fact that the neighbors in Fort Wright know the other neighbors, and we get together at our civic clubs, at our swim club, at our places of worship and education, and still talk about what we need as friends and as neighbors and as a city, and we help answer those needs as a community. My grandfather was Pete Nienaber. He was the second fire chief in the city of Fort Wright and the longest serving fire chief with a couple of decades of service to the city. The fire department, I think in particular, has made the city of Fort Wright a unique city throughout northern Kentucky, and also a big contributor and a notable part of the history of northern Kentucky. It was actually the development of the fire department in the city of Fort Wright that spurred the city on to become an actual incorporated city. And later, the city of Fort Wright was known as the City of Cities because other cities, nearly a half dozen in total now, have approached Fort Wright through the years to merge with or be annexed by our city, largely because of the public protection offered by our fire department. Our fire department came about in the late 1940s, early 50s by 40 gentlemen simply stepping forward and saying, we have enough houses in this area now that will eventually become known as Fort Wright. We'd like to have some organized fire protection. And they all volunteered, and they did fundraisers. They ran a city festival. Again, many dozens of people and families involved in that history. My grandfather, Pete Nienaber, was a part of all of that. And through time, the Fort Wright Fire Department actually became recognized as a highly trained and enviable way to organize a fire department in this state. The Fort Wright Fire Department is largely responsible for the development of the city as it is today as an incorporated city. Our volunteers got together to fight fires through the years, and it has continued to be a mainstay of the city and the city's accomplishment and I think recognition throughout the region through time. The original intent of the fire department was to protect the neighbors and the neighborhoods. As George Cruikshanks began to put together the original homes, the homeowners became concerned about their safety and realized that by pulling together, they would have a better protection. And so they put together the volunteer fire department. The Fort Wright Fire Department, I think, became special because of the camaraderie, the neighborliness, and the passion of those men and women who got together to form the early fire department. The 50 men who originally volunteered, the many dozens more families beyond that who held fundraisers, meetings in their basement to fund the first literally raincoats, which became their fire jackets. It was just such a concerted effort. But they also did it in the right way. They added professionalism. They learned what type of training they needed, and they went out and they got it. And as I mentioned, they involved the women. Fort Wright was one of the very early fire departments, not only across our region, but across the state, who involved the wives and some of the ladies in Fort Wright. They would run radio dispatch because it was an all-volunteer fire department, and when the men were at work during the day, the women would answer the fire calls and the phones and do the dispatching for them. Our history of fires in Fort Wright is well documented, and the city's fire department has done really an excellent job of keeping the history of their accomplishments through time. Fires in Fort Wright have led to many historical, interesting moments. There was a fire at a farm on Halloween night, which kind of added to the lore of that fire, which was a rather large fire and was located situationally where today's City Hall is. The fire that most northern Kentuckians are most familiar with in Fort Wright was the burning of the Lookout House. The Lookout House, of course, became a staple of the Gourmet Strip during the time that fine dining, gaming, and casino was popular throughout that area. And during one of its remodelings, what became its last remodeling, the Lookout House did burn.